Hello, listeners. We are your co-hosts, Janine Bailey and Marie Quigley, for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart, and soul. Hello and welcome, listeners, to the next episode of the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm not with Marie, who is traveling abroad, I believe, or very shortly. But I am very, very fortunate to be with the wonderful Colin Boyd here with me today as my very special guest. Welcome, Colin.
Thanks, Janine. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so pleased you said yes. And you would have been in trouble if you said no, because we've known each other for a very long time. We met in our early days of training as a coach, so it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. So, and when I saw your name pop up in my world, I was like, oh my gosh, I know Janine. So, I'm stoked to be a part of your world again.
And likewise, as I have invested in what you offer, Colin. So, and because I'm getting so much value from it, and I know you've been on our podcast quite a few years ago now, but you've certainly evolved and developed. So I really wanted to bring you back in to support the coaches and leaders who coach to be able to look at how we can present ourselves, potentially in a presentation that really excites people to listen to our story, because what we want to share is how we can support others to create transformation, incredible transformation in their lives. So,
Yes.
and of course, Colin, I've also got your book here, One Presentation Away, which I know is something that you're passionate about, that in terms of our presentations, the way we communicate, speak, our stories, our webinars, etc., our keynote speaking can, again, really attract people to come into our world. And it's in that place we can make that difference. So Colin, I've done a bit of speaking. I'd love to hand over to you to introduce yourself before we dive in today's content.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Janine. So hello guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, so my name's Colin Boyd. I've learnt in my coaching business. I've been running my coaching business for about 17 years now. And it was about 5 years ago that I started to realize that I wanted to help coaches, experts, entrepreneurs build presentations to get them clients. And I realized that if I look back over my journey of building my business, I've operated in various different niches, from career coaching to, emotional health coaching to performance coaching to leadership coaching. And I looked across all of it and I realized that it was actually speaking that really drove most of the revenue in my business. And I started to look across the spectrum of the industry, and I realized that every single time, I looked at a leader in the industry, and not just my industry, but a lot of industries, I noticed that the more they moved into leadership, the more they spoke. And so speaking for me was not something that came natural initially. It used to completely freak me out. Like I would physically shake when I was going to speak. But it wasn't until, about 5 years ago that I decided, no, I really wanted to teach speaking, because I realized that speaking had become an integral part of my business. And I just think it's a powerful way to connect with people and influence people and grow your business in a leveraged way rather than just one-to-one selling, selling from a presentation. And so, yeah, essentially I help people build high converting presentations and help them become the speaker that they want to be to grow their business, their brand, and their message.
Yes, fantastic, Colin, and of course you have trained as a coach, so you really appreciate you're part of this industry that is all about supporting others to be the best versions of themselves, and you are specializing in supporting people like me, coaches and leaders, to be able to present our stories in a way that, again, attracts people into our world. And I I resonated with you when you shared about, you know, that initial public speaking, physically shaking. I remember having brain freezes
Yeah.
when I wasn't in this coaching world, when I was in another world. And back in that world, the finance industry back then for me, I really was motivated to speak.
Mm.
It felt like a real challenge for me, but I was ready for that challenge. Although back then, of course, I wasn't really ready because I was having these brain freezes. Uh,
Yeah.
but coming into coaching and what I do, it's been just because it's so aligned with everything that I believe in, that I'm passionate about. Those brain freezes have never ever occurred again. And I still know that I can improve what I do as a
Mm.
coach and the way I speak. So I'm really appreciating everything that you've been sharing with me, Colin, so far. Uh, so in terms of for our listeners today, where, Colin, should we dive in to support our listeners to appreciate the power
Mm.
of being able to speak elegantly, beautifully, articulately
Mm.
in a way that is of service?
Mm. Well, I think we can start with, first of all, just like the mindset, the perspective of someone coming in to do a presentation. Because a lot of the time, when you get prepared to do a presentation, maybe you want to run a webinar or you want to run an in-person workshop or something like that. And especially if you want it to produce clients, you want the result to be that you get clients. A lot of the time, people can kind of go either of two ways. They go one way, which is they design a really salesy type of presentation that has very little value, is very surface level, and it feels a bit off. It feels a bit icky with the delivery of it. Or they go the other way, which is they build a presentation that's very how to, lots of content, lots of information, very overwhelming for the audience. And so what happens is they come in, they deliver the presentation, and either if it's very salesy, people will not enjoy the presentation. You might get a few sales, but it's like doesn't feel great for you or for the audience. And then on the other side of the spectrum is you deliver a great presentation, you get lots of nice comments and people clap and they say that's amazing, but it doesn't turn into clients. And because a lot of the time they're overwhelmed and they say, look, I'm going to do the, 10 to 20 things that you've told me to do. And then I'll come back and then I'll check out your program and your course, your coaching after that. And so I think what we have to realize is, first of all, when you're building a presentation, we have to focus on on serving the audience, on serving the audience. Now, serving the audience in a sales presentation is different to serving the audience in a practical delivery presentation. So, for example, if you have clients and your goal is to deliver a fulfillment workshop of you've said I'm going to deliver a workshop for you to teach you a skill. You teach them the skill. Like that's the goal of teaching them the skill. However, serving your clients in the context of sales is not teaching them a skill, it's teaching them to make a decision. And so the thing that people are held back on in their life is usually not they think they need more information. So most people, because they're in uncertainty as a prospect about something they want to solve, they're in uncertainty. And so they're looking for a solution to something. They're in uncertainty. They think they need more information. The truth is they don't need more information. The truth is they need to make a decision. And the decision is to commit to themselves on the next level. Now, that commitment might be through your program. That could be a great next step, or it could just be committing to themselves on the next level. And so the presentation needs to be designed to facilitate motivation, decision, resolve in the audience's mind, not overwhelm them with too many things to do.
Yes. I really, again, appreciate what you've shared because those sort of workshops, webinars that are about, and you can hear my awkwardness, about selling
Mm.
your services. it needs to be reframed. It goes back to the mindset, and what you importantly say is those webinars, workshops, discovery calls, whatever they may be, is when it's about supporting people to make a decision
Mhm.
versus trying to push something on them, but actually what you want to do is support them to become aware about themselves so that then they can make that decision freely without that pressure. And if they say yes to it, then potentially it's very aligned. And if they say no to it, whatever it is that you're
Mm.
selling,
Yeah.
then that's okay. You're potentially not aligned.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly, exactly. And a lot of the time people feel uncomfortable selling because they feel like they're trying to get people to do something that they don't want to do, or they're trying to get money out of them or something like that. And I think we need to reframe what selling is. Selling is just simply opening up an offer or opening up a space for someone to commit to themselves in an area that they want to commit anyway. Like I think about one of my clients, her name's Lindsay. She's a single mom, lives in Buffalo in New York. And she had an online course and a coaching program. She works with wedding professionals. And she was just trying all different types of strategies and very kind of overwhelmed, couldn't get much traction. And she joined one of my, presentations where I make an offer, and she joined our Sell from Stage program. And then she followed the structure, designed one presentation, and she ends up using that one presentation. Now she delivers it once a week. She wrote me an email the other day, and she said her income's gone from basically $1,000 a month to she's doing $30,000 consistently every single week. Sorry, every single month, in revenue, and she's only working like 20 hours a week. And so she's like, "This has completely changed my life." And if I think about it, if I'd just given her like a few things that she could try or do, she wouldn't have got that result. So really what how she got the result was she followed the whole process. Like she fully committed to it. And that's how we need to think about, like, when you make an offer, when you sell, you're truly setting someone up to change their life in a good way, in a positive way. And so rather than feeling like you're taking something from, or like taking money off them, it's no, no, no. You're creating a space for them to commit to themselves on the next level. And money, the exchange of money, is part of that transformation. If they don't pay money, a lot of the time they actually don't see as much transformation as they would.
mm, yes. So it's that transference of energy. Uh,
Yes.
mm, mm. So I'm hearing from you, Colin, there's certainly obviously a number of elements to this. So mindset being one,
Mm.
and that sounds for me incredibly important. We've got to be in that space and frame of mind to be able to share our story, but also be willing to receive as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And there's also structure. So you've touched on that as well.
Yeah, we can chat a bit about structure for sure. Yeah, so with structure, for me, there's three big elements to any presentation. There is the introduction, there's the content, and then there's the close. And depending on what the intention of the presentation is, it's going to follow kind of a slightly different structure. Usually the introduction, the content is the same, is very similar, but the close will be different. So there's three types of structures that I teach, which is a sharp sell, a soft sell, and a no sell. The sharp sell is where you directly ask people to join a program. Like you make an offer, you say, "Hey, here's the next step. Here, buy now," basically. The soft sell is you get people to book a call in, and from that call, you can have a conversation about helping them to, take the next step, join the program. And the no sell is a classic keynote. There's no offer at the end, but if you design it right, you should have a line of people who come up to you at the end and say, "Hey, really love the presentation, but like, how do we work together?" All right, that's the goal. And so with the flow of it, I always like to go the first introduction is about touching their hearts. It's about creating motivation for them about the topic, motivation for them about wanting to connect with you. So you share your conversion story, which we can talk about as well. Your conversion story, which is the story that when you tell it, it naturally makes the audience want to work with you. So you're gonna share your conversion story, you're gonna frame up why it's important, then you're gonna move into your content. And your content's gonna be content that doesn't just teach, it's not just teaching ideas, it's truly shifting their perspective on topics. And so what I mean by that is, the topic of selling is a topic that I shift a lot of people's perspective on. And so one of the content pieces that I'll teach and when I'm running a training is the reframe of selling, right? Because that's a really important reframe for people to understand if they ever want to learn to sell from stage or sell from a presentation, they have to see selling in a different light. And so that's really valuable. Even though it's not practical, it's still valuable. And so a lot of the time people misunderstand value for practical. They think practical is the only currency of value, where value is actually reframing people's perspective. Value is actually giving people context on things. Value is removing resistances and misbeliefs about things so that people can actually move forward. That's value. And so essentially, um, the content piece is going to be reframing. It's going to creating desire. It's going to be showing a big, usually contextual model or framework, and then you move into the close. And the close is really where you ask the next step, whether that's be to join the program, book a call, or an inspirational close.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing those three different types of presentations. And I guess what could be overwhelming or confusing for many is, what do I put into that content? Because there could be the um, desire to oversell or make promises without anything behind it. Um, or it could be around experiences, providing people with an experience. So yes, I'm just curious, Colin, what are your thoughts in terms of that content piece? What perhaps is valuable to
Mm.
share?
Yeah. Well, I think you should teach some concepts that have value. So for example, I'll teach about storytelling when I'm running a presentation to teach people how to speak and sell is I'll teach about storytelling. Storytelling is a really valuable piece of speaking well, and a lot of people don't include enough stories. And so you still want to teach content that's valuable, but what you have to be careful to do is not go too far below the what I call it the lose the sale line. And the lose the sale line is where you get into too much detail and too many processes. And so what tends to happen is if you get into too much detail, too much processes, the audience will start to glaze over, they'll start to get overwhelmed and feel like they've got so much to do before, they take any sort of next step. And so, you can still teach some practical things, but you just have to be very careful to not overwhelm the audience too much because an overwhelmed prospect won't buy. A motivated prospect will buy. So you have to make sure that you're motivating them to buy. So it's concepts that create a desire for pieces of content as opposed to teaching them everything that they need to know in the content.
Mm.
And so you got to think it, you can go into your program, your course, your coaching experience and go, what are the key concepts that are really valuable in here? And then you can put them into your presentation. But the key is to not teach too much detail in them. You need to teach why they're important. You need to teach what they're about. You could ask some questions. You could give some examples, but you just don't want to go too overwhelmingly into the detail because that'll just overwhelm the audience. And then they'll say, this is really helpful. I'll check out your program maybe in 6 months. And that's not what we want.
Mm. I experienced something like that the other day, looking at a qigong course for myself, and yes, there was just way too much information. There was some really valuable information, but too much. I found myself switching off, and
Yeah.
particularly coming towards the end, a whole lot of slides with lots of details on the slides. And I just want it to get down to the core of it. So
Yes.
and I haven't looked back at it. So,
There we go. There, yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah, and people don't realize they think, oh, if I show the audience that I know lots of things, then they will trust me and then they'll want to buy. But all it does really a lot of the time is just overwhelm the audience, and then it just kind of it slows down their decision making process.
mm, mm. And Colin, you talked about, believe I heard you say creating desire.
Mm.
So, and conscious, that you run a program, but just checking in with you in terms of supporting people to create that desire. What tips might you share with the audience that you're?
Yeah. Well, creating desire is starting to elicit motivation in people. And so, for example, if let's say if I'm teaching storytelling, I will teach why storytelling is so important. So, why creates motivation. I will teach what storytelling might look like from maybe a framework or a model. Right, I could teach like there's three things in storytelling you need to have, and then I might tell an example of the power of storytelling. I might ask some questions of like, where is your story at the moment on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, is it a 10? You've got it dialed, it's really clear, or is it more like a 3 or a 4? You haven't really refined it. Like, where's it sitting at the moment? And so people are going to identify a gap. And then I can ask a question like, imagine it was a 9 or a 10. How would you feel about speaking if you knew every time you spoke and shared your story, the listeners naturally started to draw towards you, wanted to work with you? How would that feel in your body? And people would be like, oh, it feels good. I like it. So see what I'm doing there? I'm talking about storytelling, but I'm not going into too much detail, but it's creating desire to learn storytelling. But it still feels valuable because I'm teaching content. I am showing a general framework. We're eliciting emotion. We're eliciting buy-in. And so that's what I mean by creating desire.
Yeah, it's really supporting people. What I'm hearing to potentially step into their future self,
Mm,
and to experience what that would be like
mm.
to
Yeah,
try it on, to embody that.
exactly.
What is wanted, what is experienced from a holistic perspective. S-
Yes.
Yeah. And Colin, you also referred to the conversion story earlier. Yeah. Did you want to dive into that a little bit
Mm.
more?
Yeah, well, the conversion story is most people tell their origin story. So they tell the story that just kind of like shares the journey of how they got into business and why they got into business and why they're credible and that sort of stuff. And that's okay. Like that's not a bad story, but it's not always the right story to share. And so the right story to share is what I've framed as your conversion story. And the conversion story is the story that best captures the transformation that you help people with. And so that could be an experience you had with a client. That could be usually as well, it might be a personal experience that you went through. And so there's a whole process around finding that story and then telling that story in a way that when you tell it, the audience will go, oh, like this person gets me. Like they've been through, or they feel like, they've been through this similar sort of challenges. They've achieved something. And it sounds like there's a really clear path that I could follow to get a result similar. And so a conversion story does those three things. It answers the three questions of, are you like me? Can you lead me? And is there a path that I can follow?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you sharing again some valuable tips to the listeners, and what I appreciate through going through the program with yourself is really getting some nuances, some subtle things that I wasn't aware of. So it's been really helpful, and I'm looking forward to getting back on the stage.
Yeah.
With that awareness and that knowledge and experience. And Colin, I know you've worked with some really incredible people in the industry, since you've really focused on this part of your experience. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience about those experiences that can reinforce, the things that you've been sharing
Mm.
is working incredibly well for others.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Janine. I mean, we've got a lot of clients. We've got over 20,000 clients who have bought from us over the last 8 years or so. Um, but when I get the chance to work with some of the biggest people in the world in our industry, um, I work on just literally at the moment, I'm working on a presentation. The guy, he's done about 2.3 million in sales in the last 4 days. He closes cut tomorrow. And I work with people, all over the world. And I think what I've realized is that even at the highest level, people get unsure. They get they still question, their story, they question their content, they question all of that stuff. But really, really what I notice people do at the highest level is they truly decide to listen to the faith in their heart and not the fear. And they go after serving people, helping people, contributing. And, so one of the things that I've noticed is that, yeah, just realize that if you are questioning your story, your content, your all this stuff, it's normal. Like, that's a normal part of the process. The goal is to not listen to that. Obviously, to learn how to do it better, but to go after it, just to trust the faith and go after it and put that in there. And so, that's my encouragement, I would say.
Yeah. Fantastic, Colin. And I also appreciate that you do offer a variety of different ways that people can access your experience, your knowledge.
Mm.
At all sorts of different price points, investment points, I'm going to
Yeah.
say. So for people that are interested in finding out more about you, where can they go? Well,
Yeah, I mean, if people wanna create their conversion story, that's usually the first point of contact that I have with people, and conversion story, it's called conversionstoryformula.com. If you just go to conversionstoryformula.com, it's really, really low priced, experience. It's just like a mini course. It'll take 90 minutes, and we've got a AI, prompt process, and you'll be able to write your conversion story. In fact, we've got it down to about 18 minutes. People can write their conversion story following the prompts. And that conversion story is the cornerstone for your content and your delivery. And so I would recommend people to start there. Conversionstoryformula.com. It's a great place to start. And I've also got a podcast. So the Expert Edge podcast, I've been running that for many years. And so people can definitely go and check that out as well.
yes. And you have this.
Yes, and the book, One Presentation Away.
Well, I got it upside down. I have.
That's all right.
Very good. Yes. And it's behind you. So yes, and just for the audience's benefit, I am really enjoying what I have been learning from you, Colin, and it's a great setup. So thank you for the experience, and thank you for being here and sharing some of your wonderful tips, clues, ideas, insights for our audience, because I know we're both passionate about supporting others to make a difference, and we know that we're not everybody's cups of tea, but we can still keep that ripple effect going. So thank
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on, Janine. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, an absolute pleasure. So thank you again. And listeners, love to hear your feedback
Mm.
and to let us know what you're learning, what you're taking away, and what you might like to listen to going forward. So thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website www.empower-world.com and on our social media networks Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Be empowered.